My name is Luke Weiland, and I guess or not, I don't guess, but I started this project, AU, back in 2005. It was a solo project while I was finishing up art school in Boston, and since then it's been through maybe 4 different incarnations of bands and whatnot. Right now it's just the two of us, Dana Blaka on drums and myself on keyboards, lap steel guitar, sampler, and melodica and vocals. The story of the big band is primarily, it revolves around Verbs, around that album. And it was at a point in time when I was definitely rooted in Portland, Oregon, and was surrounded by a very nice group of friends and players that I wanted to kind of bring together for the album. And we managed to do a few shows, but just in Portland there was like 20 plus people on stage, and it was fabulous. It was a mess. We didn't have enough time to actually rehearse and get it tight, but the celebratory energy of it was well worth it. However, pretty much since Verbs was released, we've been on the road. We meaning me and Dana, and that was, I mean, it's funny. I mean, I think you're the first person who has a sense that I prefer to be a bigger band. In actuality, right now, I'm quite enjoying it, just being the two people. The larger groups are great because you can compose and write many more parts, and the music can be much more layered and more dynamic. But I feel like for the live show, I prefer smaller groups, and because there's less of an expectation, and then we're more capable of kind of surprising people.
Thank you.
Thank you. My background is playing classical piano when I was younger. Not very well, but just had the training, relatively speaking, and then stopped through middle school and the early part of high school, and then kind of came back to music and started playing jazz, and then from there went more the kind of freaky route of the kind of like free improv, modern classical style, just like more exploring the instruments for their kind of nuances and whatnot. And I do almost prefer that music more, but playing that live is not as satisfying. It's more of a selfish thing. It's more of like the people that you're playing with. It's more about that relationship on stage, and the audience tends to be relatively distanced. Whereas bringing more of the kind of pop elements or whatnot, it's more about the show, which I love. But the improvisation is definitely key to playing shows night after night after night. If I was in a band, or if I was writing music that required me to play the song the same way every night, I wouldn't last long. And I love that music. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but for my personal taste or my personal needs, I need to be able to have moments in every show where there's risk, where we could either totally mess up or find something new, and I think that's where the need comes from, is that it's because it's just, it's like being on tour for months on end. It's like playing, we're still playing the same songs, but there are these like pockets of time where we leave room for playfulness. I think that's important. my perspective on it, or my perspective on the Portland scene is very specific, and I think it tends to be for each person that lives there, because it's very, you can kind of find your own little bubble to exist within, but there are a lot of people that make music there, and there's a lot of free time. So there tends to be a lot of cross-pollination and collaboration, which is great, because there are no jobs, and but it's relatively cheap to live there in terms of some cities. It's getting more expensive, blah blah blah, but it's like people do have more time to make their music, and I think to keep from being bored, there are a lot of side projects that kind of pop up. But in terms of a general sense or a general opinion on the music, I mean, I think there's amazing music in Portland, but I don't think there's any one sort that I could kind of pinpoint as being a Portland sound or anything like that. But there is some great players there,
and there's a lot of stuff always going on.
Yes, yeah. It's I mean, the sad thing about Portland, but also maybe the good thing about Portland, is that most of the venues are 21 plus, and it's very strict. So the house show you've seen there is fabulous, because that's the only place where kids can go and see bands. And in my mind, I've had my most joyous shows in basements, and I think there's something to be said for that. I mean, I want it to change. I want kids to be able to see music in venues and whatnot, but I still think that the house show scene there is pretty great.
family, friends, all I know fades away. Slowly we grow. Always are. Thank you all so much. Band called AU. Stuff for sale in the back. Have a lovely evening, Birmingham. Thank you guys. Thank you all. Good night. Good night.